Anyone else? Any thoughts, reflections?
I'm sorry. I was going to say it's very important to remember that any trauma or any difficult situation in our lives changes our brain, and it changes how we process situations. So you had a very impactful time during your career, and it came out 30 years later or later on. But what's important now that would be a good question to ask yourself is, how have you functioned well so far? You're doing something already that's been helpful. And so focus on the fact that you've been able to do that now. There's something there that has helped you move forward and be successful.
And family and friends, I've always had that.
And that's exactly what we would identify. What has helped you now? What is your support system like? But you're also doing something already that has been able to move you to this point.
Trauma, whether psychological or physical, is very damaging to the brain. And some of that damage is irreversible. So it's something to remember. Yes, ma'am.
I think just always remembering that we're human too, and that we are susceptible to these sort of trauma responses, and that we may give the tools to clients all day long, but we may not be that great at accessing them ourselves.
Oh.
And it's something that we have to try and practice. Like even today, I work with Child Safe, so we work with trauma. But one of the things that we did this morning was a training on active shooters. And
We did that yesterday.
Huh?
We did that yesterday for our clinic, yeah.
So it was really difficult because they made us watch these, they didn't make us, but they said we could walk out if we needed to, but they were very difficult videos that we watched, and that was a trigger for me and something I had to be gentle with myself, about, this is really difficult. And fortunately though, I have more training now to manage this kind of situation if it were to ever occur. But one thing that I know that I have to do to remember, even though I feel positive about the fact that I get to be a part of a healing journey with families. So remembering that and believing in that interpersonal dynamic that can occur between me and families, I also have to make sure and take care of myself. So I have my own therapist that I meet with too,
Right.
And I feel like sometimes I'm like, I wonder if that should be just a requirement that we have regular treatment.
It is on mine. You will see later, yes.
It is for me, because I just know that's helpful for me. But I also am a part of an agency who's because of the nature of our work, they are very aware of the secondary trauma, and we have internal programs. So I think an agency that has a very strong, solid program and is aware of this dynamic and is actively doing things to protect their agency, to protect their employees, is going to help everyone.
Yeah. Some agencies are more equipped and have more, and actually devote and invest resources in the health of their employees and their staff, because we're at the front line, right? If we're not healthy, then how can we provide care? How can we provide good quality care? Have you anyone heard here of Christina Maslach? She has the Burnout Inventory. It's a 22-page question. It's available online, and you can take it for yourself or with your agency, with your team. But basically, it's 22 questions on 3 subscales. Questions about emotional exhaustion, right? That can gauge, if you're feeling overextended or overwhelmed. Also, a subscale to is depersonalization, which is, the unfeeling, impersonal response, which is the exact opposite of empathy, which is the cornerstone of our profession, right? And the third subscale is personal accomplishment, which is, about feeling competence and achievement. So basically, the higher your score on emotional exhaustion and depersonalization, the higher the burnout rate is going to be. Also, if you score higher on personal accomplishment, then the lower your burnout rate is going to be. And there's also another measure. It's called Areas of Work-Life Survey, AWS, and that's also free online as well. And I like to do this every couple of years for myself and see where I'm at. I just do, so you're aware, you have insight, like she said so eloquently. If you're not self-aware, then no change is going to occur, right? If we're not changing, then we're not evolving. And we're doing ourselves a disservice and the clients a disservice for that. So Maslach's Burnout Inventory and the AWS, if you can remember
We
that.
did a questionnaire, so maybe it was her research.
Right.
I don't recognize the name.
Okay.
But we did a questionnaire that sounds
Mm-hmm.
familiar.
Yeah, very easy, like super fast, 10 minutes, tops. All right, so we talked about vicarious trauma. Not only service providers are susceptible to vicarious trauma, but family members, especially caregivers. And depending on the dynamic of the parents and the children too, children can also be very susceptible to vicarious trauma. It's hearing trauma narratives over and over and over again and not having the capacity to separate that from your personal life and just kind of decompress and go this way and contain it at work, that can result. And if untreated, it can last for months, even years. And it can sometimes turn to actual PTSD diagnosis because the symptoms are very, very similar. Very similar. I've worked with people who have been diagnosed with secondary PTSD. This vicarious trauma is not on a DSM, but secondary PTSD is. And it's my friends who've worked at CPS, worked at state hospitals. I started my career working at a community mental health setting, serving indigent population. I mean, homelessness, substance abuse, severe and persistent mental illness, no resource, zero. The recidivism is so high, it's like a revolving door, and it's same thing day in and day out. It's hard to sustain that. And as professionals in those fields, you have to be very active in your education and in your self-care. Make sure that it does not affect you in a negative way. Now, you can grow from it, you can learn a lot from it as a professional, but you may make sure that it does not occur. Compassion fatigue. We all know compassion fatigue. We heard about it at school, right? On the job. We've seen it in our colleagues. We've seen it in our coworkers. Maybe a supervisor has pointed out to us at one point in our career. Compassion fatigue. What's compassion fatigue? What does it look like? You've seen it.
I equate it to, because I'm a team lead, and whenever I do it, first walk in and that Superman cape is flying high, on my boom. And then after 6 months, the wind is no longer carrying it, and it's tattered, and they're more invested, because we do in-home, they're more invested in what's happening than the family is. And so usually when they start talking, I go, stop, what is the family doing? What is the family doing? And then they're like, they stop, you're working in this case more than they are. This isn't a good for you. So I'm gonna pull you off. Let's take a step back. But that's what I always equate it to, the Superman.
I like that, yeah.
Wait in, and then 6 months later,
Gets all-
it's now.
Very good. Anyone else? Compassion fatigue.
Short fuse. Having a very short fuse to things.
Exactly.
Getting frustrated easily. But it could also be being tired all the time. And not being able to function the way you normally
Right. A lot of signs and symptoms on a personal level too, but how about as it relates to the work that we do? What does that look like? Apathy to our patients, to our clients? Maybe some resentment, like, again? Didn't you not do your homework? We talked about this, right? Irritability. Just the lacking of the compassion that we used to have. Yeah, it can creep up on you. And sometimes you don't recognize it, and sometimes people have to point it out to you, like, hey, you need to take a break. Yes, sir.
So I've been in my current position going on 3 years. And went to a conference last year in Florida. Spent a whole day talking on that and burnout. me being retired Army, you know, I like to throw hammers at things to fix them. But my property manager, very caring lady, she'll call me out on it. Be like, Sean, you know, you need to start handing out more rainbows. Because you know, I've served this almost the same clientele that whole time, and they'll come in seeking, you know, rental assistance referral. And in my mind, I'm like, bro, I've done this like 6 times. Where do you spend all your money?
A big screen TV?
Well, we ain't gonna get out of that. He's got a camera rolling. But yeah, this is huge. I believe in the social work field is some of us may, well, I know from time to time, you just get numb to the stories. Because it's like the same record playing over and over and over. So this is, I mean, I guess from my foxhole, this is legit. Because I've gone through it, and I'm going through it. You know, every day it's a struggle. When I open up that door to my office, you know, what am I going to tackle today, and who am I going to try to help today, or
Right.
assist today? So yes.
Yeah. It's normal, it's healthy. We're humans. Of course, we get fatigued, we get tired, right? But we don't have to stay in this state. That's the point. We don't have to stay in this state because we have the resources. We have support within our teams, within our professional circles, within our families that'll get us out of it. But you have to be aware enough to know, and also accept feedback. Because sometimes we get so busy, like we don't even know. Sometimes, my coworkers will have to tell me, Kat, you pull another all-nighter a couple nights in a row now, you know, because you're a little irritable and you're not wanting to take calls and you're saying no to this intake that's walking in. But that's what it is. We do a very tough job that not a lot of people, it's a gift that we certainly do have, to work in this field tirelessly day in, day out, right? To be let into people's most intimate parts of their life, you know, their trauma, their struggles, you know, that's not easy to share. And we have access to that. You know, it's a privilege, it's an honor, but it also comes with stress and the heaviness that comes with it. So it's basically the same: vicarious trauma, burnout, compassion fatigue. They have very similar signs and symptoms, and also very similar coping mechanisms to deal with it, right? One thing I also want to emphasize too, working with the military population, most of the providers in this field are veterans themselves, right? Right? We are, and we have our own experiences. We may have our own issues that we are continuing to deal with. Like some of these are lifelong conditions, right? That are easily manageable and we can function with a daily basis if we take care of ourselves. But you know, veterans serving veterans, that's great, you know, because it helps us continue that mission and the focus on the mission, the camaraderie that we all got acculturated to. But we are very susceptible to vicarious trauma and secondary PTSD and compassion fatigue. Let's see here. Let me ask you this question. Has anyone, whether a friend, coworker, partner, family member, ever told you that you need to slow down? None? I want to see hands. You need to raise your hand too. I tell her every other day. This is Alana Lavinier, by the way, outreach director. She's wonderful. She's served this population. I don't want to age you, but you know, her whole career in various programs since she was 10. I like her. You get an extra cookie. But I lost my train of thought. What did I say?
Slow down.
Slow down. Yeah, slow down. To slow down, right? My coworkers, my friends, they tell me, oh, you know, you need to slow down, Kat. You put, 70 hours last week. You can't keep doing that. It's not sustainable. It's not healthy because it negatively impacts our health, psychologically, physically, mentally, but also our family members. They suffer Because when we go home, we get home irritable, right? Right? Why is there a cup on the sink? You know, I'll throw a tantrum with a cup on the sink. It's not a big deal, it's a cup, it's a little cup. But it's not fair to the kids, so to the family that you go home to. So, you know, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your loved ones, and to the clients, and to the team that you work with. Take care of yourself.
It's pretty sad when you tell your husband, my compassion is all given out, I'm done. Really? I can't even get a cry. Nope, I'm done.
You know, we've reached an agreement. He's like, give me a call on your way home or text me, rough day.
That's a good.
Yeah, rough day. And then there won't be any cups in the sink. It'll be under the sink. But, you know, we manage. It's called negotiation. So we work it out. So more things about vicarious trauma, burnout, and compassion fatigue. It's the biggest thing about is like the apathy that can result, you know, apathy towards the clients that we serve, and that is the exact opposite of our mission, of what we're here to do. Right? You stop listening, you stop caring, you stop investing in them, and they can see that. They don't come back. If that happens, they don't come back. All right? And the last one right there, the onset of symptoms may not be detectable until weeks, months, years later. You know, so you have to watch out for it. You can't exactly pinpoint, like, why am I so stressed right now, where I've had a really great month at work or a really great week at work. It creeps up on you when you least expect it, especially sometimes when you're vulnerable. All right, characteristics of professional helpers that make them more vulnerable. Oh, like I said earlier, people who work with military are often themselves veterans and family members of veterans. So there is more of that personal responsibility and personal commitment, not just on a professional level, but personal. So there's more investment and more commitment to it. And that weighs heavier, right? Helpers are frequently survivors themselves, so they have their own traumas to deal with, or they have dealt with, or they have, or they've never dealt with, that may be triggered by an event that, they won't see coming. Okay? So training to emphasize, show compassion, focus on others' needs may take it harder to set emotional boundaries. Now, we know how important it is to set limits and boundaries with the people that we work with and the people that we work for, people we serve, right?